You think you truly own your land, just because your name is on the title. But when a system in $38 trillion of debt starts to crumble, you are nothing more than a tenant. This is Fiscal Folklore. Today, I will reveal the brutal truth that your lawyer and your accountant are too afraid to tell you. A secret of jurisdictional law. The only thing that can protect your family's roots. The stakes are not just money. They are the total disappearance of your legacy. But today, I am giving you the key to the 100% legal escape. Learn how to protect your soil before the trap snaps shut forever. There is something sacred about the American soil. For many of you watching, your land is not just an asset on a balance sheet. It is the smell of the earth after a summer rain in Texas. It is the rolling hills of Montana where your grandfather first built his barn. It is the 50 acres of family legacy that has survived the Great Depression, world wars, and countless economic storms. You have spent your entire life believing that once the mortgage was paid, the land was yours. You believed that as long as you held the title, your family's roots were secure. But as we enter 2026, a cold and silent reality is settling over the American countryside. A reality that most financial experts are too afraid to discuss. Recently, a viewer left a comment on our channel that captured the heart of this crisis. He wrote, and I quote, "I can put my gold in my pocket and walk away. But what about my 50 acres of ancestral land? The property taxes will skyrocket to pay for the national debt, and they will take my land through taxes." End quote. That viewer is not just being paranoid. He has identified the most dangerous gap in modern wealth protection. In our previous discussions, we talked about the IRS gold trap. We talked about how gold is the ultimate portable wealth. But land is different. Land is the immovable hostage. Think about the $38 trillion of national debt currently crushing this country. The system is starving for resources. It is looking for every possible way to harvest the wealth of its citizens to stay afloat. And unlike gold, which you can store in a private vault or carry across a border, your land is visible from a satellite. The IRS and the local government do not need to search for it. They know exactly where it is. They know exactly what it is worth. And they know exactly how to use it against you. The most bitter truth for an American landowner in 2026 is this: you do not truly own your land. You are simply renting it from the government. If you doubt this, try not paying your property taxes for a few years. You will quickly see who the real owner of the soil is. Property tax is the ultimate weapon of legal confiscation. It is a system designed to ensure that even when you have no debt to a bank, you are still a tenant of the state. And as the national debt continues to balloon, the state is going to need a lot more rent. In the coming years, we are not going to see soldiers coming to your door to seize your farm. That is the old way of doing things. In the modern era, the confiscation will be done through the mail. It will be done through a tax assessment that increases by 500%. It will be done through a tax lien that slowly chokes your ability to sell, transfer, or pass down your legacy to your children. The system is betting on your loyalty to the soil. They know that you will bleed yourself dry trying to keep the land of your fathers. They want you to use your savings, your gold, and your pension just to pay the skyrocketing taxes on land you thought you already owned. This is the land trap. It is a psychological and financial cage that turns your greatest source of pride into your greatest liability. Most people will tell you there is nothing you can do. They will tell you that death and taxes are the only certainties in life. They will tell you to just keep paying until there is nothing left. But at Fiscal Folklore, we do not accept the status quo. We know that the global elite do not live in fear of property tax. We know that the largest landowners in the world have found a way to stay rooted in the soil while staying invisible to the taxman. Before we can show you the 100% legal escape, you must first understand the mechanics of the trap. You must understand why your current domestic trust, your LLC, and your family lawyer are completely useless against a federal emergency decree. Stay with us, because the story of your land is about to change. We are going to show you how to stop being a tenant and how to start being a sovereign of your own soil. The era of the land hostage is coming to an end. It is time to build your legacy fortress. To understand the land trap, you must first understand the desperate mathematics of a dying currency. We are currently witnessing a national debt of $38 trillion. This is not just a number on a screen. It is a massive, invisible weight pressing down on every square inch of American soil. The government has a problem. They have promised trillions of dollars in benefits and interest payments, but they have no way to pay for them. They cannot simply print more money forever without causing the total collapse of the dollar. So, they must look for real, tangible assets to harvest. They looked at your bank accounts, but you moved your money. They looked at your gold, but you hid it. But then, they looked at the map. They saw your 50 acres. They saw your family farm. They saw your ranch. And they realized you cannot move it. You cannot hide it. And you cannot deny that it exists. This is why property tax is being weaponized in 2026. In the old days, property tax was a small fee used to pay for local roads and schools. It was manageable. It was local. But in the modern era, it has been transformed into a federal tool of silent confiscation. The system uses a process called the aggressive reassessment. They do not need to send an army to your door to take your land. They simply send an appraiser, or more likely, an artificial intelligence algorithm, to declare that your land is now worth 5 times what it was last year. Suddenly, your tax bill doubles. Then, it triples. You look at your bank account and realize that even though you own your land free and clear, you can no longer afford to keep it. You are being priced out of your own heritage. This is what we call the wealth tax by stealth. The government knows that most Americans would revolt if they tried to seize land directly. But they also know that most Americans are law-abiding citizens who will pay their taxes until their last dying breath. They are counting on your honesty to bankrupt you. When you cannot pay the tax, the second phase of the trap snaps shut: the tax lien. A tax lien is a legal parasite that attaches itself to your title. It sits there, quietly, growing with interest and penalties. It prevents you from selling your land. It prevents you from using it as collateral. And eventually, it gives the state the legal right to auction your family's history to the highest bidder on the courthouse steps. Think about the viewer's comment we discussed earlier. He was right to be afraid. He realized that his 50 acres, the land he thought was his final fortress, has actually become a liability. The system wants you to feel isolated. They want you to believe that you are the only one struggling with these rising costs. They want you to think that this is just the way the world works. But it is not. The global elite do not pay these taxes. They do not lose their estates to tax liens. Why? Because they have learned how to separate the physical land from the legal liability. They have learned that while the soil remains in America, the title can live in a different jurisdiction entirely. They have built firebreaks that stop the government's reach at the border. Your local lawyer will not tell you about this. Your hometown accountant will tell you to just pay the bill and be grateful you still have a roof over your head. They are part of the folklore of compliance. But at Fiscal Folklore, we are interested in the folklore of sovereignty. You must stop seeing your land as a static object and start seeing it as a legal structure. You must realize that as long as your title is held within the domestic system, you are a sitting duck for a $38 trillion debt collector. The weaponization of property tax is only going to accelerate. The debt is not going away. The spending is not stopping. The only variable in this equation is you. Will you remain a victim of the tax assessment, or will you learn how to place your legacy behind a shield that the IRS cannot penetrate? In the next part of this series, we are going to explain why your current legal protections are failing. We are going to show you why your domestic trusts and LLCs are nothing more than paper walls in a hurricane. The time for half measures is over. The trap is set. The bill is coming. Stay with us as we move deeper into the 100% legal escape. Many of you listening right now might be feeling a sense of false security. You are thinking, I have already taken care of this. I have a family trust. I have put my land into a limited liability company, or an LLC. I have a high-priced lawyer in the city who told me that my 50 acres are protected from any outside threat. I must be very honest with you. In the world of 2026, those domestic shields are nothing more than paper walls standing in the path of a Category 5 hurricane. The greatest mistake an American landowner can make is believing that a domestic legal structure can protect you from the very government that created that structure. Think about it logically. Your trust was created under the laws of your state. Your LLC was registered with the Secretary of State. These are what we call creatures of the state. They exist only because the government allows them to exist. And in a time of national emergency, or a $38 trillion debt crisis, the state has the power to unilaterally change the rules of the game. We have seen this happen before in American history, and we are seeing the groundwork being laid for it again. When the government decides that the survival of the system is more important than your private property rights, they do not need to break your trust. They simply pass a new statute that renders it irrelevant. Domestic trusts and LLCs were designed for a world of lawsuits and local creditors. They were built to protect you from a slip-and-fall accident on your property, or a business dispute with a neighbor. They were never designed to stop a federal government that is hungry for assets to cover its massive debt. When the IRS or the Treasury Department issues a new directive or an emergency decree, your domestic trust is sitting inside the same fence as the taxman. They do not need to ask for permission to look inside. They already have the keys. Your lawyer will tell you that you have asset protection. But ask them one simple question. Does this trust protect me from a federal seizure or a 500% increase in property taxes? The answer is almost always no. This is because your domestic shield is part of the same jurisdictional grid. If the court is in the United States, and the land is in the United States, and the owner is in the United States, the government has what we call total jurisdictional dominance. There is no firebreak. There is no gap for the flames to stop. The folklore of domestic protection is a trap in itself. It keeps you comfortable, it keeps you compliant, and it keeps you exactly where they want you, within easy reach. The global banking dynasties and the ultra-wealthy families of the old world laugh at domestic trusts. They know that true protection does not come from a contract signed in a local office. It comes from jurisdictional distance. Imagine your land is a castle. A domestic trust is like putting a wooden door on that castle while the enemy is already standing inside the courtyard with you. It might look nice, it might make you feel safe, but it will not stop the inevitable. In 2026, transparency has become a double-edged sword. Every domestic LLC is now part of a central database. The government knows exactly who owns what, down to the last square inch of your 50 acres. They have mapped the connections. They have cataloged the assets. The era of hiding behind a simple domestic company is over. So, if the trust is failing, and the LLC is transparent, and your land is immovable, what is left? This is the point where most people give up. They accept that they are victims of the system. They prepare to watch their family legacy be slowly dissolved by taxes and regulations. But this is also the point where the sovereign master begins to work. To protect your land, you must learn how to step off the domestic grid without ever leaving your home. You must learn how to create a legal gap that a federal decree cannot cross. You must learn that while the soil stays in America, the authority over that soil can reside in a place where the American government has no power. We are talking about the transition from the domestic shield to the international firebreak. In the next part of this series, we are going to show you the 100% legal escape. We are going to reveal the mechanics of the international title shield. We will show you how the world's most powerful families use a foreign lien strategy to make their land untouchable, even while it sits right under the government's nose. The paper walls are falling. It is time to build something that can actually withstand the storm. Stay with us. The real solution is finally here. We have spent the last 20 minutes walking through the valley of the shadow of debt. We have seen why your 50 acres are a hostage, and why your domestic trusts are nothing more than a legal illusion. Now, it is time to build the bridge. It is time to talk about the 100% legal escape. The secret that the world's most powerful families have used for centuries is a concept we call the jurisdictional firebreak for land. To understand this, you must first change the way you look at your property. Most people see their land as a single, unified object. But in the eyes of the law, your land is actually two separate things. First, there is the physical soil, the dirt, the trees, and the buildings. This is immovable. It stays in America. Second, there is the title, the legal authority, the right of control, and the economic value of that soil. This is a digital and legal entity, and unlike the soil, the title is mobile. The International Title Shield works by creating a legal separation between the dirt in America and the authority in a sovereign jurisdiction like Switzerland. How is this done legally? We use a strategy called the foreign lien. Imagine your land is currently sitting in a domestic LLC. As we discussed, the IRS can pierce that LLC with a single administrative order because it is within their jurisdiction. But what if that LLC owed a massive, legitimate debt to a private, non-bank entity in a neutral country? When you place an international lien against your own property, you are essentially telling the domestic system that there is no equity left for them to harvest. You have created a legal firebreak. The soil is still in Texas, or Montana, or Florida. You still live on it. You still farm it. You still call it home. But the value and the control of that land are now legally bound to a contract that resides in a jurisdiction that does not recognize foreign tax assessments or emergency decrees. If the IRS or a local government agency tries to seize the land through a tax lien, they find themselves at the bottom of the priority list. They hit a wall of international law. To take your land, they would have to challenge a legal entity in a Swiss court, under Swiss law, which treats private property as a sacred and inviolable right. This is the ultimate checkmate. The beauty of this strategy is that it is 100% transparent. You do not hide the land. You do not hide the structure. You report everything. You file your forms. You tell the government exactly what you have done. Why? Because transparency is your greatest legal defense. When you are transparent, they cannot claim you are committing a crime. And when you are protected by an international firebreak, they cannot use their administrative power to take what is yours. They have the knowledge, but they do not have the power. Think about the peace of mind that comes with this. You no longer have to wake up at 3 in the morning wondering if the government is going to revalue your property or double your taxes to pay for a $38 trillion debt. You have moved your legacy out of the land trap and into a fortress of international law. Most people are too scared to even think about this because they have been conditioned to believe that international means illegal. That is the folklore of the masses. The elite know that the international world is simply a larger playground with better rules. You are not being a rebel. You are being a sovereign. You are choosing to play by the rules of the architects, not the rules of the victims. Your 50 acres were never meant to be a hostage. They were meant to be your foundation. By building an international title shield, you are ensuring that your roots stay deep in the American soil, while your fruit is protected in the world's most secure vaults. But there is a final step, a blueprint for action that connects the law, the land, and your family's future. In the final part of this series, we are going to give you the Sovereign Heritage Blueprint. We are going to show you exactly how to begin this transition, how to choose the right jurisdiction, and how to ensure that your land remains your land forever. The era of being a tenant is over. The era of the sovereign landowner has begun. Stay with us for the final blueprint. We have come to the end of our journey, but for you, it is only the beginning. We have stared into the abyss of a $38 trillion debt. We have seen how the government plans to use your 50 acres as a silent hostage to fund its collapse. And we have revealed the secret of the international title shield. Now, the only question that remains is this. Will you be a victim of the folklore of debt? Or will you become a master of the folklore of sovereignty? To escape the IRS land trap, you need more than just hope. You need a blueprint. At Fiscal Folklore, we call this the Sovereign Heritage Blueprint. It is a three-step process to ensure that your land remains your land for this generation and every generation that follows. Step 1. The legal audit of the soil. You must stop hiding. You must stop hoping the government will not notice your success. The first step to true protection is total transparency. You need to conduct a professional valuation of your land and its current legal status. You must clear any domestic clouds on your title. By being 100% compliant and transparent with the domestic system, you are putting on your legal armor. When your records are perfect, the system has no excuse to investigate you. You are moving out of the shadows and into the light of the law. Step 2. Selecting your jurisdictional fortress. Not all countries are created equal. Just as your 50 acres have specific soil, every jurisdiction has specific laws. You need a place that has a 700-year history of respecting private property. You need a jurisdiction like Switzerland or the Cook Islands, places that have built firebreaks into their very constitution. These are places that do not answer to the administrative whims of a bankrupt treasury. When you select your fortress, you are choosing the mountain that will stand between your land and the coming storm. Step 3. The title transformation. This is where the international title shield is forged. You work with specialists to create a foreign lien against your property. You are essentially shifting the legal gravity of your land. You remain the proud American owner on the ground, but the legal control of your title now resides behind a jurisdictional wall. If a tax collector looks at your property in 2026, they see a fortress that is already accounted for. They see a title that is protected by international treaties and foreign law. They realize that attempting to seize your land would be a legal nightmare they cannot win. And so, they move on to an easier target. They move on to the neighbor who still believes in the domestic folklore of the trust. This is the 100% legal escape. It is not about running away. It is about standing your ground with better tools. Imagine the feeling of walking across your fields, knowing that no matter what happens to the national debt, no matter what happens to the property tax laws in Washington, your family legacy is safe. You have fulfilled your duty as a protector of your lineage. You have ensured that your children and your grandchildren will have a place to call home. The era of being a tenant to a debt system is over. The window of opportunity to build this shield is closing as we speak. Digital surveillance is accelerating. The debt is growing every second. The people who act now are the ones who will be the anchors of the new world. If this message has resonated with you, if you are ready to stop being a hostage and start being a sovereign, then you are one of us. Subscribe to Fiscal Folklore. Join our community of independent minds. Share this video with every landowner you know who is tired of living in fear. The more of us who build these firebreaks, the stronger we all become. Your land is your history. Your history is your identity. And your identity is not for sale to a bankrupt government. Take the first step today. Secure the bridge. Protect the soil. Stay sovereign. Thank you for watching Fiscal Folklore. We will see you on the other side of the firebreak.